traveling by boat. Hello everyone, and welcome to the 16th episode of our English learning series. In our past stories, we have talked about many kinds of journeys. Today, I want to share a story about a very different and special kind of travel. It is not about flying high in the sky or driving fast on a road. It is about a slow, beautiful and relaxing journey across the water. This is the story of my first time traveling by boat. The trip happened last summer. My family and I were on vacation, and we wanted to visit a small, beautiful island that was not far from the coast. The only way to get to the island was by taking a big boat called a ferry. I had never been on a big boat on the open sea before, so I was very excited. Our adventure began early in the morning at the port. A port is a place where ships and boats arrive and depart. It is like an airport, but for the sea. The air at the port smelled salty and fresh. We could hear the sound of seagulls calling in the sky and the gentle sound of water hitting the sides of the docks. We saw many boats, from small fishing boats to huge cargo ships. But the biggest of all was our ferry. It was huge, painted white and blue, and it looked like a floating building. First, we had to go to the terminal building to check in. We showed our tickets and our identification to a person at a counter. She gave us our boarding passes and told us which gate to go to. Everything felt organized and easy. When it was time to board, we walked out of the terminal and towards our ferry. We walked up a long sloping ramp called a gangway. This ramp connected the land to the entrance of the boat. With each step, my excitement grew. Stepping from the solid ground onto the deck of the ferry felt like stepping into a new world. The inside of the ferry was very big and had several floors or decks. The bottom deck was for cars. We watched as many cars and buses drove onto the ferry and parked in neat rows. The decks above were for the passengers. There were large rooms with comfortable chairs and big windows. There was a small cafe that sold drinks and snacks, and even a little shop. But the best part was the top deck. This was an open-air deck, which means it had no roof. You could stand outside and see everything around you. This is where my family and I decided to stay for the beginning of our journey. Soon, we heard a very loud sound. It was the ferry's horn. It made a deep, powerful honk sound to let everyone know we were about to leave. A few moments later, I felt a gentle vibration under my feet. The powerful engines of the ferry were starting. Very slowly, the big boat began to move away from the dock. We stood by the railing on the outside deck and waved goodbye to the land. The city and the port became smaller and smaller as we moved out into the sea. It was a beautiful sight. The water around us was a deep, dark blue, the sun was shining on the surface of the water, making it sparkle like 1,000 diamonds. Behind our boat, the engines churned the water, leaving a long, wide, foamy trail called a wake. The feeling of being at sea was amazing. A cool, salty breeze was blowing, and I could feel it in my hair and on my face. There was so much open space. All I could see in every direction was the blue water and the blue sky. It felt so peaceful and free. Far in the distance, we saw another large ship. It looked like a tiny toy from where we were. After a while, we saw something incredible. A group of dolphins was swimming and jumping out of the water near our ferry. They were so graceful and playful. Everyone on the deck pointed and smiled. It was a magical moment. We spent the next hour just enjoying the journey. Sometimes we would sit inside in the comfortable lounge and look out the big windows. I got a cup of hot chocolate from the cafe, which tasted extra delicious at sea. But my favorite place was always the outside deck. I loved watching the waves and feeling the gentle rocking motion of the boat as it moved through the water. It was so relaxing. After about 2 hours, the captain made an announcement over the speakers. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching our destination. We will be arriving at the island in approximately 15 minutes. I looked out ahead, and for the first time, I could see a thin green line on the horizon. It was the island. As we got closer, the thin line grew bigger and bigger. I could see green hills, white sandy beaches, and a small, colorful town by the water. Everyone started to get excited. The ferry slowed down as it carefully moved into the island's small port. The crew on the deck were busy with ropes to tie the ferry securely to the dock. When the boat stopped completely, we felt a gentle bump. We had arrived. The captain made one last announcement. "Welcome to the island. You may now disembark." To disembark means to get off the boat. We collected our small bags and followed the other passengers. We walked down the gangway and stepped onto the solid ground of the island. Our boat trip was over, but our adventure on the island was just beginning. As I looked back at the big ferry that brought us here, I felt so happy. Traveling by boat was a new and wonderful experience for me. It is not the fastest way to travel, but I think it is one of the best. The journey itself is part of the adventure. It allows you to slow down, to breathe the fresh sea air, and to see the world from a different and more peaceful perspective. It was a journey I will never forget.